What's up, everybody? Thank you all for tuning in to a special edition of Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights. You may notice that my two co hosts, Ed and Matthew, are not here, and that's because we're just here to talk about Gator football. And I am pleased to have, for the second time on our show, Shelton from High Top Sports. And Shelton, before we get to talking about Gator football, I just want to ask, how have you been, man? How's life been treating you?
It's been great, man. I appreciate you guys having me on for a second time. It was a blast last time, but yeah, life's been good. It's been a fun off season, and it's ramping up to be a really hopefully an exciting. I mean, I think it's gonna be exciting regardless of what happens. But it's been great, man. Thank you.
Dude, of course. I mean, as you always say, Gators by a million, right?
Cheers by a million, baby.
All right, so let's get into this. So there's a lot I want to get into, but the first thing that I want to talk about is Graham Mertz. So I think the general consensus among Gator Nation is that how the season goes depends on how well the defense does, and I don't I don't necessarily disagree with that per se, but I personally don't have a lot of faith in the defense, and we'll get into the defense more later on. I don't really have a lot of faith in the unit. I mean, the last 4 years has not given me any good reason to have any faith in them. So I think this season is going to go more depending on how Graham Mertz performs. Now, Billy Napier has gotten a ton of well deserved criticism, but I think one thing you have to give him credit for is his evaluation of Graham Mertz. I mean, when he brought Mertz in, everybody thought that was a joke, and then Mertz shocked everybody when he didn't suck. Now, I don't want to say he was great last year, but he was serviceable, and that certainly was great for us, given the fact that he came in with extremely low expectations. Well, serviceable is not going to be good enough. Okay, we've seen what he's capable of. And I think naturally, in a second year in a system, we should expect improvement. I mean, Trey Wilson has a lot of high expectations. I think Joshua Moore, which we'll also get into later, a 6'4" guy, should help him out. There's expectations that Graham Mertz should be better, and I know Mertz has those same expectations for himself. So, in your eyes, what kind of a second year leap should we expect out of Graham Mertz, and will it be enough to save Billy's job?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's gonna be much improvement in the sense that it's his second round through the system. I believe the line will be a little bit better. I don't think he has to go out there and do much more than what he was doing last year. If he's got better blockage, the wide receiver core, in my opinion, with the addition of Shamir DK and the Badger and UG Wilson, plus that young core that came in the year prior to that with A. Mazzell, Andy Jean, those guys will probably see more of them. The running back room, I think, is extremely healthy and thick. Again, I don't think he has to go outside of the box that he was last year. Um, Completion rate was there. The yards weren't horrible. Again, the offensive play calling offense wasn't really that bad. The defense was just that poor. When you put up, 30 plus games, we lost a couple of games where you put up 30 plus points, 30, 40 points. Graham's doing his job. If you think Graham's going to go out there and be Jane Daniels and throw for, over 3,500 yards, or even a Carson Beck and throw for 3,500 yards, I think you're asking for too much. Can he do that? I think he can. He gets enough protection. The talent that is in that wide receiver room, I think he can with ease. But again, the arm strength wasn't there. Hopefully, there was some improvement there. He is coming off an injury, but I don't think he has to do anything crazy. Just do what you did last year with a little bit more consistency. And again, the third and sevens, third and fives, you convert those a little bit more. I think we're heading in the right direction, which is exciting.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I don't think any reasonable Gator fans are expecting to take a Jaden Daniels type leap, but I don't think it's asking for too much just to ask for improvement. Now, going to the other side of the ball, defense, and just listen, hope I think the defense will improve. I mean, it was so bad last year that it really doesn't have anywhere to go, but up. But one guy that I think I'm particularly interested in is Shamar James. And I think you can make the case that Shamar James is the best player on that unit, certainly the most important player on that unit, because I don't think it's a coincidence that he goes down in that Georgia game. I mean, not that our defense was particularly outstanding going into that game, but it's not a coincidence whatsoever that as soon as Shamar James goes down in that game, our defense just turns into utter shit the rest of the year. I mean, there's no better way to describe it. It just turned
You lose your
into
quarterback. You lose quarterback
yeah,
on the defense. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, I think hopefully, hopefully the unit gets better, but just what are you expecting to see out of the defense? Because I think with Shamar James coming back, there certainly is reason for some optimism there.
I think, look, the one pro, and I agree with you with Shamar James going down, that was a big impact. Shamar James, let's just say in a hypothetical world, Shamar goes down. We also didn't have Justice Boone, who I think is a big factor in the leadership as well. But the secondary with Asa Turner, Triquez Bridges, CJ Douglas, Jordan Castell stepping up. I think this Jason Marshall, right? I think he was really having some great progress. He's going into his senior year. There is a ton of veteran leadership now that, in my opinion, wasn't there at all last year. Jordan Castell was your guy in the safety. A true freshman was your guy. You had Kimber, who didn't know what sideline he was supposed to be on. Jason Marshall definitely was not what he should have been. Wasn't much leadership. There is a ton of veteran experience coming in there now. And honestly, when you said that Shamar James is the best player, kind of got me thinking, like, man, is he? Is that a good thing? I don't know. I actually would like to kind of process that and think about that a little bit more. But I know you sent me the questions about the defense. I think the talent is there. And I think the changes they made to coaching staffs are there. And the things we're hearing from the players, Jordan Castell said in a recent interview that tackling, tackling, tackling. We hear about it every single day. It's a constant focus, something we were not focusing on last year. And we know how atrocious that tackling was. And I think, again, I keep beating this drum and I will die on this hill, is the strength and conditioning. That is such a small factor that, in my opinion, plays more into the defense because schematically, was there issues? Yes, we talked about it with Will Miles on our show and Read and React, that Armstrong was very aggressive, which allowed for a lot of boom bust plays, or more boom plays, right, and busted coverage plays. But it wasn't like it was poor play calling. It was just we were a little probably too aggressive when we shouldn't have been. We could have came back a little bit, and we weren't making big time tackles or having a lot of bust plays right in the backfield, blowing things up. Because I honestly, I don't think we have the strength to get it done. We were just getting beat up on the line. Doesn't matter what you're calling if you're just getting tore up in the trenches, and you see Derek Wingo, it plays in my head over and over again, getting leveled by a running back, right? Kimber getting leveled by a receiver hitting a post route. I don't care what you call. So those things have all been approached and addressed, and we see the numbers, and those things lead me to give me reason to be excited about.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, certainly if the defense can improve, then I think we can expect improvement for the season, and that's the next thing I want to go into. Obviously last year coming off a 5-7 season, which I don't think it was entirely Billy's fault. I tweeted something a couple days ago which caused a complete firestorm. Where I said, "Hey, Billy haters, you're not going to like this one, but we make that field goal and we make that 4th and 17 stop. Two things that are entirely out of Billy's control. You're looking at 7, maybe 8 wins with the with the bowl win. Now, I did get some pushback. Gator fans saying that Billy made a lot of bad decisions, which led up to Trey Smack missing that field goal. And I think that's certainly a fair point, right? That is
Yeah, I agree.
certainly fair. And
Yeah,
I'm not trying to I don't want to make it sound like I'm pinning the loss on Trey Smack per se. I mean, every win, every loss is a team effort. But the fact remains that Trey Smack makes a field goal. It doesn't forgive Billy for his coaching decisions, but certainly when you win, you can forgive all the bad things that he's done. But listen, I'm probably one of the very few Billy supporters left, man. But it's year 3. Like what would have worked as excuses in year 1 and even year 2 isn't going to fly anymore. And I want the guy to do well. I mean, I don't know him personally. He seems like a nice guy, but he has a bad 3rd year, then he's got to go. Again, it's nothing personal, but you just can't have 3 straight losing seasons at Florida and expect to keep your job.
for sure. No, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, so then going into the first game, the Miami game,
Uh huh.
this isn't probably the most important game of Billy's career. This is the most important game of Billy's career, right? And like everybody's talking about it, like Florida wins, then that could open up the doors for possibly I don't know, a good season for lack of better terminology. But if we lose, listen, I'm not saying that if we lose the Miami game, that I'm gonna be jumping on the fire Billy train, because being 0-1 isn't the end of the world. There's always the possibility that you turn things around. But I tell you what, if we do lose that Miami game, I I will definitely be a lot more open to the idea of firing Billy than I ever was before. I mean, I think that seems to be the general consensus among most Gator fans.
Yeah, I think how the loss is going to be a big thing. Look, I get hit with Disney Gator, and this isn't me being optimistic. I think it's realistic. The game has a ton of weight. Let's not get it twisted. He's not going to get fired unless the game is completely atrocious. He's not going to get fired after game one. With the one pro of this intense schedule is you lose that game, you could still find a way to win 8 or 9 games, and in a weird way have an opportunity to be in a playoff consideration, which is crazy to think about. So, you know, 5 years ago, you do lose that first game. The whole season's over. Like nobody cares anymore. It's a wrap. No SEC champion. Like it's just like the whole thing is a blunder. We have to kind of remind ourselves like that's not the case anymore. Unfortunately, it's again, it is what it is. There's a ton of pressure leading up to this moment, and you've got to win that game. I think ultimately, right? That's you have to. If it's just an absolute dogfight of a football game, and Cristobal has his guys just equally as prepared, and they, walk off on a field goal or something, and there isn't dumb mistakes throughout the game, he'll have a little bit. I mean, the people that hate him are going to just, if there's a loss, there's a loss. Even if there's a win, it's going to take a couple of wins to get people his side. So he's fighting an uphill battle. The game's extremely important. Let's not get it twisted. But there is the bright side is that there's a lot to you can come back overcome it. The problem is, and what people are going to say is that back half of the schedule is such a gauntlet that if you start in the hole with game one, it's impossible to come out of it. Right? Florida could very easily go 7-0 and finish 7-5. Like that's how that's crazy to think about. But that's what the schedule is. So they lose that first game, and let's say they win the next 6. Well, now they're 6-6 again, and it's like, well, damn, But that's why that first game is that important, because of the back 5. That how much LSU, Ole Miss, Georgia, FSU, and I can't think of the other one at the moment.
Texas, I think you're thinking of.
I think you're right. I think it is Texas. I think Texas is in the front half, but yeah, I think it is Texas.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, but that number 5, kind of gives me PTSD. Like if we start 5-0, that'll give me PTSD, because you recall we were 5-2 last year. Literally just needed one more win, and then we end up, being 5-7. But listen, Shelton, you're right. Like it's no secret. We have a brutal schedule. I mean, it seems like On3 reminds us of that every single freaking day. But the more that I look at the schedule, Shelton, the more that I analyze it, I gotta tell you, th- there's only 2 games on that schedule where I don't think we have a snowball's chance in hell. Like you can just chalk that up as a loss, and that's Georgia and what's that?
Georgia and Texas.
Yeah, exactly. Like those are games where if we won both or either, I would genuinely be
Build a
surprised.
statue. Yeah, build a
But
statue.
yeah, exactly. But every other game, or at least every other game where we're an underdog, like if we won those games, it genuinely would not surprise me that much.
No, I agree. I kind of say it on the show, and it's I look. I mean, as much as I like to be like rambunctious and confident, I still question. I see the comments. I hear what people have to say. Like, don't be a Disney Gator. I try not to be that. I try to be biased to it, but again, and I truly believe this from the bottom of my heart. This is why I love college football, because you don't know what's going to happen from week to week. I don't care how great you are. It's the reason why Appalachian State can take down Texas A&M. Anything can happen. And this team is talented enough to get on a momentum. And all it takes is getting over that hump, realizing that you can believe, and unlocking that power, right? It's what the good old fashioned just coming of age movie, right? Where you kind of got the nerdy guy walking around. He takes his glasses off. They're like, wow, he's not necessarily a 6, he's an 8. And then he kind of taps into this unknown potential, right? And that's kind of how the movie goes. That's Billy right now. I think Billy's walking around the classroom with his glasses on. It's like, dude, take them bitches off and show some swagger. Just tap into an extra, become an 8. That's all we need you to do is become an 8, unlock that potential. And so I think if he's able to tap into that potential, who knows what can happen. And I think that's where he's at right now. It's just got to the team is too. They've got to believe like, look, you have what it takes to be there, and I can tell you that, and you may believe that at a surface level, but you yourself know that you need a little bit more to say like, yeah, what I am feeling is right, and we as humans go through that every single day, myself included. So
Yeah, absolutely. One game that I'm really interested in particular, Shelton, is the LSU game. We got the Tigers at the Swamp, and I think we have a better chance against LSU than most people are giving us credit for. Now, listen, okay, we've lost to LSU 5 years in a row. I mean, like they've certainly earned the benefit of the doubt, and they are certainly coming in with a very very talented squad. But I think one reason why, and I think David Waters was actually talking about this on his show recently. So to give him a shout out, but I think one reason why Florida fans should feel confident about the LSU game is because we're entering with more certainty at quarterback than LSU is. LSU is entering
sure,
with Garrett Nussmeier. Now, listen, Garrett Nussmeier could have a
agree.
fantastic year. It is entirely possible, but I don't know if you noticed with LSU, like, or maybe you haven't noticed, but one thing with LSU is that they don't really have consistent quarterback success. And what I mean by that is they're not like Ohio State or Alabama, where it's like year after year, like no matter who they have behind center, they are, they're always going to get good quarterback play. It's not really like that, with LSU. Like even when they won it all in 2007 and they went to the championship 4 years later, they didn't have particularly great quarterback play. I mean, at least in our lifetime, because I think you're only a year older than I.
They had Joey B and Jaden Daniels are the last two big guys.
Yeah, exactly. So,
No, bro.
like you and I think, like, you're only a year older than I am, I think. So I imagine we've been watching college football about the same time, right? Like they get Joe Burrow, right, who was freaking phenomenal for them. Then after Joe Burrow, they don't really get, I don't want to say bad quarterback back play, but they certainly didn't get a Joe Burrow type of quarterback later on until they got Jaden Daniels, which
Sure.
personally I think Joe Burrow was still better than Jaden Daniels, but Jaden Daniels was certainly,
Oh yeah.
yeah, Jaden Daniels was certainly still able to do things that Joe Burrow wasn't able to do. But also, I'll still take Burrow overall over Daniels. But I think just given the recent history of LSU not having consistent quarterback success, I think that's one reason why Gator fans should feel confident and optimistic about that game. I mean, we're going to be underdogs in that game. Will we lose? It wouldn't be surprising. But all I'm saying that given that we're entering with certainty at quarterback, I think that's a reason for optimism as LSU comes to Gainesville.
No, I agree, and that's something I've kind of said about the whole schedule is our quarterback play compared to every team that we play. There's only Texas and Georgia are having the same quarterback that was there last year play for them. And I think again, Nussmeier being young, Nussmeier is going to be fantastic. I believe. I think he's going to have a great season. I think I put him in the top 10 for SEC quarterbacks in our list that we came out with earlier this year. Um, the games late in the year, it's in the swamp, which is a huge factor. I don't think their defense is going to be any better than it was last year. It was just as bad as we were, but their offense was way better than ours was, obviously. So they're able to continue to score at will. Yeah, look, I don't think that game doesn't intimidate me. What I think is happening, and the reason we've lost five in a row, is that the talent is probably pretty close. The talent on the field is there. Um, what Coach O and what Coach Kelly both have, they know how to win the big one. Right now, Kelly hasn't won a championship. Coach O did, but being at Notre Dame, you play a lot of big time games. You understand how to tap into that, and you've unlocked that potential. Napier hasn't done that, and Mullen, in a sense, I guess, really never. I don't think he really kind of tapped into it either. He had better seasons. Obviously, we go to the SC championship that 1 year, but and obviously had some bigger wins under his belt during that time. But still, you went up against Coach O. You're losing to Coach O during those times. So that was kind of just a battle mano a mano. So that's what does concern me. So at that point in the season, Billy, like I just said, could be take his glasses off and tap into that potential. And yeah, I feel very confident going into that game. It's just you have to have that killer mindset and step on the pedal. We saw it last year with Tennessee. The way we played the second half versus Tennessee is in a way how we played the rest of the season. Just kind of lull and scared. And I think that's what he has to get rid of.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing I want to talk about here, Shelton, is recruiting. I mentioned
Mm.
Joshua Moore before. Fantastic pickup, by the way. Like this guy's
Dude,
tape is great. 6'4" guy, knows how to use his hands, and like you watch his tape, and it's not like he's not just good because of his size. Like this is a naturally gifted wide receiver. But I have an interesting take that might take you back a little bit, but just hear me out. But I firmly believe that the new era of college football that we're about to enter into, I think for the first time, possibly ever, if you don't have a top 5 or hell even a top 10 recruiting class, then I don't think it's going to necessarily be the end of the world. Now, listen, we know that recruiting for so many years has been the foundation for success. It's how teams like Georgia and Alabama how they've been able to be so successful. But I think we've also seen outliers. I mean, in the last 20 or so years, there's only 3 teams that I can think of that did win it all despite not having particularly elite recruiting. And that was Auburn, who of course had a freaking cheat code at quarterback in Cam Newton. Clemson, who had generational quarterbacks in Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. Now, don't get me wrong, Clemson had some freaking studs, but I think with Clemson it was more about quality over quantity, and that was kind of reflected in their classes. And then Michigan, who, in my opinion, I think they were very fortunate to not face Georgia in the national championship. Now, the argument, especially in regards to Michigan and Clemson, is people are going to say, yeah, well, Michigan and Clemson also face easy schedules, whereas Florida has to play LSU, Georgia, and Florida State every year. I get that, but we're entering into a playoff format where we're guaranteed to see 2 lost teams, maybe 3 lost. Hell, we might even see a 4 lost team in the playoffs, Shelton, just depending on how chaotic things get. Now, I don't remember the last time we had a top 5 class. I want to say it was either 2013 or 2014. It's been a while, but we've always recruited well enough to at least win the games that we were supposed to. We've had some good 10, 11 win seasons, and say whatever you want about Dan Mullen. I know he's kind of a public enemy number one in Gainesville, but I mean, not that Dan Mullen really recruited well. I think everybody can see that he won mostly with Jim McElwain's recruits, but the teams that we had under Dan Mullen, they would be good enough to make the playoffs the playoff format we're about to enter into. Now, I'm not saying that Florida should never ever aim for top 5, top 10 classes. We absolutely should. Don't get it twisted. All I'm saying is that again, I believe that we're entering into an era where it's not like where the sky isn't necessarily falling if you don't have that top 5 or even a top 10 class.
I I understand where you're coming from, and I don't quietly disagree. But the schools we just went over that you mentioned, the Michigans, the Auburns, who was the other? Oh, Clemson. I think Clemson had some pretty good classes, but let's just put them in there. Um, I think Michigan falls off, and Michigan took a to get there because those classes, yes, all they weren't top 5 classes, top 15 classes, took a while for it to build, and now they're going to have a massive drop off. You recruit the top 5 every year, top 3, like Bama and Georgia, you go back to back, you sustain success. I still think to sustain success and to be dominant, you're going to need to have a top 5. The portal plays a big factor. So if you can complement a top 10 class with a top 5 portal class, then yeah, you can kind of maintain that longevity, but you're also rolling the dice every single year of what's going to become available. And I think with the changes they're making, I think we're going to get back to where I think recruiting's always going to have a factor. But look, I think it's going to be tough because of the portal of keeping guys. So maybe it does get a little diluted because of the 12 form playoff, 12 team playoff. Yes, can you make the playoffs and not have a top 5 class every year? Yeah, for sure. But I think if you and I are speaking about Florida football, that's going to get old quick if all you're doing is making that. You got to go win a natty. And I think to go do that, a top 5 class. Um, I think if you recruit well enough and you can maintain success, and you can look like Mellon did it with the Kyle Trask class. It peaked up where the class was fit, right? You have all your seniors, everyone kind of comes together. You've got a healthy core, then you can go after it, and that can happen every so often. Florida's not going to be happy with that because they won't allow for the dip to come back to come the rise back up again. So for Florida, and because the teams that are finishing top five are LSU, Georgia, and Alabama, and A&M's coming, and now Texas is going to be up there. I mean, if you're seven, you're almost damn near last in your conference. You know what I mean? We don't have the same privilege being in the SEC as like a Michigan that can get away with the top 15, or even Clemson can have a top 8 class. Their path to get there isn't nearly as intense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like as I said before, Michigan and Clemson are very, very fortunate to face the schedules that they do, and this is
Yeah.
something that yeah, and like this is something that I had thought about going into here. Whereas, if we make the playoffs, and I believe we will make the playoffs one day. I mean, we're way too big of a brand to miss out on that. And I think the format has been expanded to give teams that aren't necessarily elite recruiting, it does give teams like that a chance. So if or when we make the playoffs, certainly Florida fans will be excited. But I think, as you've also been saying before, there's also Georgia's going to be up there, LSU, Texas. So it's like, okay, it's one thing if you make the playoffs. But if you keep getting eliminated in the early rounds year after year after year, then suddenly making the playoffs isn't good enough. But I just believe that given how shitty we've been lately, it's all about baby steps, right? When we make the playoffs one day, that's going to be it's going to be huge for us. Like, it's going to
Sure.
be uh yeah, it's going to be huge for us. But I agree with you completely that eventually just making the playoffs isn't going to be good enough. Eventually you have to show more than that.
No, absolutely. Again, I think you might make it that one time, cool, but they're Gator fans are gonna get a taste, and they're gonna want a lot more. So, look, Florida in baseball goes to the World Series last year, and this is Final Four this year. I can assure you, it's like, all right, we need to go win one. Going that far is not cool enough. So in basketball, Todd Golden's gonna look, making the dance is fun and exciting. We need to run. We need to run. We need a couple wins. So that's kind of how it is.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. I'm really looking forward to a basketball season. I certainly I had some doubts about Todd Golden, but he's pretty much erased all of them now at this point. But Shelton, man, just thank you so much for coming on. Where can people follow you? Where can they keep up with your work?
Yeah, man, we're High Top Sports on YouTube and on Twitter. That's kind of where we live at the moment. We're on TikTok and things like that, but uh, no, we don't post too much on there. So yeah, YouTube. We do our live shows every Wednesday live at 8:35, and then we obviously clip things. Big time commits happen. We're live. We're rocking and rolling. We like to have a good time. So, and then during the season, I mean, it's mayhem. So I can't really give you a schedule because we're rocking and rolling all day, every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as always, go Gators and Gators by a million.
Yes, sir, baby. Go guys, man. Thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.